Hold up, before the roleplay begins, of course I had to forget something. Let me just Control C, Control V, and there we go. Going back to silent. Hi. Hello. How are you? It's a little bit late, right? Like, well, it's fall, isn't it? Winter is coming, it's getting darker outside. Well, you know, it's always difficult to start these. What do we do? How about some, scary stories? Halloween's coming up, and I'm horrible at math, like 6 hours or so. It'll be, spooky. Ooh. 2 times spookier for Halloween. Let's go for some scary stories, right? Why not? I say why not scary stories? Come on. These are always fun. If you happen to be scared of scary stories, then, you know, you're, your loss, I guess. Let's let's start easy, right? Let's start with something not as spooky and yet, some mystery to it. I have heard that a long time ago, like damn long time ago, like hold on, like in the Middle Ages, right? Or even before the Middle Ages, real long time ago, there was a little city, right? There was a little city next to like a cave. I don't know, like a cave, but in that cave, there were a lot of like rare and glowy crystals that were actually surprisingly sharp, right? Really sharp, scary crystals. But not the crystals were scary, nah, the crystals weren't scary. What was scary is, one day, you know what they did in Middle Ages with witches? They see, wow, that was suspicious. You have to be a witch. Let's burn you. That's always how it went. Right? So, one day, they came to, said witch, and they said, well, they said, I'm pretty chilled out as for a scary story, but I was about to say like, oh, they came, they came to the witch and said, hey, we want to burn you. Nah, let's get spooky. They came to the witch. They knocked on her door, and the witch already knew what was happening, right? So she ran. So she ran as fast as she could, and she ran into the cave, right? But, she was hoping that, oh, it's dark in the cave. She can hide and no one can see her, but the crystals that I was talking about, the crystals, they were kinda, luminescent or so, or fluorescent, I don't know. They were glowing either way, right? I have no idea how, but they were given off light. Maybe they were reflecting it from the moon, I have no idea. But that meant that she can't just hide. She can't just hide, she has to do something, right? She has to run. And so, so she ran. But, as you do when you run, one of the, magic pouches with magic fucking, I don't know, powder, magic powder, she ran into these crystals and, it ripped apart. One of the magic pouches ripped apart and it spilled all over every one of these crystals. And, magic, you never know what magic does, and the witch didn't want to use that magic powder, didn't know what it would do, and the crystals, they started shrieking. The crystals started giving off weird noises, like if they were shifting and stretching, but it's hard crystal, it doesn't just stretch, so it was giving off this horrible scraping noise, and they started merging together. And after a very short while, a giant crystal creature came up to them, and it was, well, came up to them, came out from the ground, right? And the crystals, they were really tense, right? Because they had to hold stretched together somehow, and they had to hold up, in a position. So it looked like a skeleton, kind of, It wasn't it wasn't like a full body creature, because where does it take where does it take its meat from, right? It's just crystals. So yeah, it's just a crystal skeleton, and was really tense, so it gave off this horrible high-pitched noise. And a lot of people went, well, a lot of people, some of the people went deaf, because the ones that stood closer, and the witch got away. We don't know what happened to the witch, but if you ever if you ever get into a cave, and even if in the distance, right, even if in the very distance you hear a a high-pitched screeching noise, stop. Stop moving. Don't make any noises. And the only thing you can do is hope. Is hope that you will not start seeing light coming your way. Because if you do, that means that the crystals were glowing, right? So the creature comes out with its glow right around the corner. You are fucked, my friend. So, that's one scary stories, and I have plenty more. I have plenty more, and that took 5 minutes, so there's gonna be a lot of scary stories, eh? Let's let's go for another one, eh? What do you say? Another spooky, scary story, eh? Okay, this story no longer takes place in Middle Ages, right? We're out of that that period of time. Now we're not in the Middle Ages, we are in our normal times, right? In every day, in the present, right? And basically, there was a wedding, right? Like around a year ago, I believe. There was a wedding, and it just so happened that it was, a few days before Halloween. Uh, and on the wedding, you know how it is. Everyone was wearing suits. Everyone was wearing suits, and they were all fancy and stuff. But one person, one person decided, I don't need a suit, right? They just came in a checkered shirt and in a jumpsuit, you know, just casually. Of course, no one liked that, right? Every teenager laughed from them, because the casual person was also a teenager, so their friends laughed from him. But he didn't mind. He didn't mind. Except his friends decided that they should, pull prank on him. And they told him stories that in the forest near where the wedding took place, there are horrible monsters lurking in the shadows. And that, because he's not dressed like them, he has to go into the forest, right? So basically, we're where every single horror movie starts. You have to go into the spooky forest. Whoa. So he did. He did come into the spooky, scary forest. And he looked for something. He looked for something. We don't know what he did, but his friends, right? They waited for him, and they were laughing like, wow, he looked so scared, right? There's just a forest, please, right? And there's noise outside because the wedding. No animal is gonna come there, right? Come on, please. Nothing can happen. They were laughing. It's rightfully so. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. His, their friend did not come back, the casual one. And they started, thinking like, are there really animals in that forest? And then 15 minutes passed, and then half an hour. There was no screams, right? So they didn't think anything happened, but he clearly got lost, right? He clearly just got lost. So they came into the forest, naturally. They came into the forest and they went looking for him. And they didn't find him, but what they found was a single tree. A single tree in the middle of a pool of blood. Well, a pool. Like just a... Hold up, let me just... a puddle, there we go. Puddle of blood. Right, it wasn't a pool, it was just a little puddle. But the tree was standing right in it. But that's not the most, concerning part. What was actually frightening is that it was wearing the exact casual clothes that their friend had. So they didn't see their friend, they didn't hear their friend, but they found a lot of blood and a lot of his clothes. So, through a process of elimination, we know what happened. Therefore, if you ever in your life see a tree dressed up in a suit, do not come near because you know what will happen. You know exactly what will happen. And we both know that. But it's just a scary story, right? You might say, accept. Some of these scary stories. There's actually another story. There was a person, just on the side. Like a person in the middle of the city, leaned against the wall of some building. And he told me a lot of these scary stories. But he only told me, one at a time. So every day of the month, I had to come back to him, and he'd tell me all these stories. And he actually gave me a picture of this one, right? Look what, like, when I said, don't come near when you see a tree with a suit on it, guess what he found? Damn it, I forgot to scale the picture up. There we go. This is what he found. And the photo's a little bit blurry. But it looks like he clearly got lucky, right? How could he have lived? You don't see it on the picture, but he also said there was indeed blood under the tree. So maybe it was just a prank, right? These are always just pranks, come on. Come on, these are always just funny little pranks. No way it was real. No way it was real. Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Another one. Well, okay, let's make a break from these scary stories, right? Like, it wasn't a long time ago, but I heard a few of another stories, right? Like, first of all, I have no idea if you heard, but there was a miracle recently. A straight off miracle. Some woman has clearly died, but, before they could make a funeral, she just straight up came back to life. She just straight up lived again. And she's, from what I believe, she's still living, right now. That's actually weird. But like in a, some city, I don't know what, I forgot what city, but like on one of the roads, uh, like almost everyone on said road just woke up in the middle of the night, like, pretending to see some screams and some laughs. But, no one was found, no one was missing, you know, nothing out of the ordinary happened. But, I have a spooky story for this exact, you know, exact thing. And it's a little suspicious because it matches so well. Like, I heard a story that, you know, someone was walking down the street, so there are already, you know, already comparisons we can make. And that person was talking to himself, like he would do everything, and he multiple multiple times underlined the word everything, right? He'd do every single possible thing if he could bring his mother back because she just died. And that's another thing, right? Remember the old lady that died? And now his mother died, and he'd say he'd do everything to bring her back. And guess what? She's gotten brought back somehow. And then a tiny person, like a really short, kind of a dwarf, walked up to him, and he said, like, "Are you sure you do everything?" The man was surprised, naturally, and the dwarf gave him a bottle and said, "It's a simple thing, just blow some air into the bottle, you know." So, of course he did, right? Like, you're offering me bringing my mother back for just breathing some air into the, bottle. Of course I will. But, it wasn't that simple. It just so happened that with the bit of air that he breathed, his soul went straight into the bottle. He breathed out his soul. It was painful, so he screamed, and then he died. You know, Michael died. Disappeared, clearly, because no one found him. There are so many, connections. I'd for sure think that's, you know, something. Look, it's not quite a picture, but you know, when I told about this parallel to the man that told me a lot of these stories, he just drew me this. So, you know, that is indeed a little spooky and a little scary. Like, where did he get that from? Maybe he was the man, I don't know. Nah, come on, because he's alive, right? Couldn't be him, because dead men don't tell stories, eh? uh, oh, this one. This one is cool. I just remembered this one. So, naturally, it's Halloween again. And a group of friends has met each other. They've met each other, and they wanted a hangover, a sleepover. So they had to gather a bit of sticks from the forest nearby because they needed to make a campfire. Well, they needed to make a campfire. They wanted to make a campfire. They wanted to grill some sausages and stuff like that. So they did, right? They went into the forest and they looked for him. Well, they looked for him. What am I saying? They looked for them. They looked for the sticks, right? And they found a lot of sticks. But one of their friends, whose name was, let me remember, mm, Not. There we go. His name was Not. Well, his name. It was his nickname, right? Um. Oh, well, his real name was. God, I made these stories in Polish. I don't know how to translate this one. Hold on. The name does not have a translation. Ah, well, you don't need to know his first name. They called him. They called him Not. Either way. And when everyone was gathering sticks, and they finally came back, he was nowhere to be found, right? They couldn't find Not. So, by the way, they not in the way like, the one you make with a rope, right? No, not with the one like, like not, like yes, no, but no. You get it, you get it. Either way, they couldn't find him, so they went looking for him. You know, they were calling him, Not, Not, where are you? Come here. But he did not reply. So they decided, let's call him. Okay, let's call him. It's obvious, come on. So they did call him. I am mixing up these stories so much. I'm so this was one of my favorites and I just ruined it. Well, they did call him. They wanted to call him. That's what I wanted to say. They wanted to call him, but since they were in a forest, the signal was a little bit weak. So a lot of them, decided to go and call him outside the forest, but one person in the group, needed needed a quick wee in the forest, so just went in between the bushes, as you do when you need a wee, right? You need to go, you need to go, right? It's just, if you gotta go, you gotta go. That's how we roll. Either way, he went, and he found Not, and Not was indeed hanging on a knot. He saw a giant creature resembling a tree, and at the nose of that creature was a noose was hung up, right? So it looked like that creature was still alive. So what had to happen, what did happen is that creature, these are, these are, these creatures, because that's another one of these stories that the man in the city told me, and he called these hangmen. And, I thought hangmen were the people that were hanging, not the creatures that hung up others. But either way, hangman. And he said that hangmen, mm, hangmen, hunt because they're animals, right? They need to eat somehow, and the way they hunt is they just come up to their prey, and they permanently have a noose attached to their nose, right? This is not just something that they tied up. It's just, biology. Like it's just a valid organ for them. And so the hangmen come up to their prey and they just put the noose on their enemy's heads and pull it upwards. And then they can then they can eat, I guess, right? So continuing this story, right? Not was hanging on one of the hangmen, but the person who just wanted a quick wee then felt that someone put something around their neck and then a quick pull upwards. He was struggling, it was difficult, but he was already above ground, he couldn't do anything. And then it got darker and darker, and the sun came down, and, you know, it got blank. And that is actually quite scary, because the way the man, you know, explained it, it's like, are these real? I don't think they are. Well, he described them like if they were real. Maybe it's just, maybe he's writing a book, right? But I really like his stories. They're weird. They're odd. They feel like if they were real. But I have no idea. He also, that's actually something I saw. Hold up, because that's another story. I even took a photo. Hold up. Let me find the photo. There we go. This one. Like, you don't quite see it on the photo, but a lot of crows just randomly made the shape of a person, and they killed a few people. Oh my god. The crows were just weird. Like, that, come on. You don't just see a bunch of crows arranged in the shape of a man randomly killing people. And it just so happens that the man from the city told me that it was him, right? He just found some crown made from crow feathers and he put it on because why wouldn't he? Of course he would. And then he, then all the crows from all directions just gathered around him and he was the big thing. That was honestly weird. Yeah, and that would mean, holy shit, that would mean that they are real, wouldn't it? Holy shit. Okay, well then, no, no, hold up. Holy shit. Oh god, I thought they were, yeah, no. Okay, no, they are real. Holy shit. Okay, okay, well, now that we got that out of the way, moving on, moving on. Well, let's make a break from the old man and the city, right? Maybe one of my stories. My stories are worse. My stories are worse. I'm bad with stories. No, let's say like oh, I know. I got one. I got one. I once was, next to a lake, and I accidentally overheard. That's actually true, right? I'm not making this up. Like, I overheard a conversation. It was really late at night. A woman came up to a man, and it didn't seem like they knew each other, but they just sat on the side, you know, near the near the lake. They sat near the lake, and the man seemed surprised, and he said like, "Hi, that's the first time I'm seeing you here, right?" Tried to say that he doesn't know her, so she replied that yeah, yeah, right, she's new here. And then he tried to start a conversation somehow, and he said that his grandmother always told him a legend of an evil ghost of a siren, right? And people, like, I'm gonna guess that was in Middle Ages again. They, god damn it, hold up, let me. They nailed her down with they nailed her down to the bottom of this lake, the exact lake that they were just sitting on, mm, with giant, with giant chains. There we go. With giant chains, giant heavy chains at the very bottom of the lake, and that every time at this exact point that they were talking, the ghost would scream from pain and sadness, and the screams alone would cause the waves. And she replied that her friends told her the story, and she said that if the siren would have ever, you know, got out from there, she would single-handedly get rid of every single human on this measly earth, piece by piece. And of course, I was surprised, right? Like, I heard that story, but I didn't hear that part. And so was the man. So was the man. The man said that he didn't hear that part either. But he comforted her. He said, like, there's nothing to fear. The lake is so calm. There are no waves on the lake. There's actually no wind, right? There's no sound. So of course there is no ghost at the bottom of the lake. And I said, yeah, sure, of course, right? Like I wasn't part of the conversation, but I definitely agreed. Of course it's not true, right? It's just a legend. It's just a legend. But then she replied that not anymore. And that is a bit unsettling. That is very unsettling. Another story. Hey, let's go for another story. Um, uh, Another story, maybe one about, someone's biggest fan. I have, I have, read some social media once, and I came across a really interesting account, right? It was a really cool person. It wasn't a celebrity, it was like a YouTuber or something. He was really funny and interesting. But at one of his social media, he once, posted a post in which he said that, he was going across the city and he met one of his fans, and the fan said that it's his biggest fan. So it was a really pleasant surprise. And I thought that, wow, that is actually really cool, right? But then the day after, he said that he met his biggest fan again, and this time he was just at the end of the road that he lived on, and he was standing with a sign, right, like, oh, I'm your biggest fan or something like that, so he could read and he could know that this is him. But then the YouTuber was confused, like, how the hell did he know where he was? And then a few days after, like, that was actually, it's not quite at the level of the old man's stories, but this one I lived through. I had certainty it's real because I've been there. Like, a few days after, he just casually posted that he's scared, right? He just posted that the YouTuber posted he's scared, that he tried to ignore the biggest fan, but every single day he just spontaneously appears, and every time he's a bit different. Well, a bit different, he's a bit closer, right? Every single time he stands a tiny bit closer, and every time he comes 1 hour later. And at the day when he posted it, he said that he literally just saw him outside his window, and it was almost midnight. So he, of course, he called the police, but next day, that's where it gets, like, next day the account was gone. He I haven't heard from him since then. He's just gone, poof, disappeared, nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found. He's just casually gone because he can, I guess. That was really, like, Maybe it was just his way of saying I quit, because you know, I know we've been through that. The old man stories are real, at least some of them, but that one I lived through, I'm not sure if... God. Okay, but let's get back to the old man's stories. They're more interesting, aren't they? You know, he said that he was just casually strolling along some road near a forest, but not in the forest, and he was just strolling along with his friend, talking casually. Right, they were both young back then, but then a weird black, like goopy creature, like it looked like a man, but it was definitely not a man. It's like if it if you tried to replicate a man, but from weird black goop, and the black man, the black man. Wow, that sounds racist. What I mean is it wasn't a human. It was here. Hold up. I was meant to show it later because that's another one of the old man's stories, and he actually also gave me a photo. That's how it looked, and I forgot to scale it again. Let me just... There we go. That's how it looked. Right? So he had a photo, and there was this weird... you see what I mean. Weird black goop. And exactly the thing that I didn't come to it. The creature was wearing a watch around his neck. Right? You can see the watch. And this watch comes back a lot of times later, right? This watch is... This watch comes back very often in others of his stories. It had to be important somehow. I have no idea how. But what happened is, you know, the creature attacked his friend. So the friend tried to protect himself somehow. So he just grabbed the watch and tried to rip it out, right? So, and you know, in self-defense, so the black creature would get off of him. But when he tried to pull the watch, it just phased through the goop because you know it was like water. It just phased through it, and then the black goop started melting, and you know it just left a big black big big black puddle again on the ground, and the creature just died. I don't know. Well, it was definitely gone. Right. Let's let's agree on that at least. Um, you know, like, that had to be traumatizing. But then the watch kind of arranged its arrows to, if it was midnight, right? It just arranged the arrows like if it was midnight, right? There we go. And mm, what started happening, they felt like, well, that's weird. But then they couldn't get rid of that watch, right? Like it was always on his friend's neck, right? Well, he could have it in his pocket, but he could not throw it out, right? The watch would always stay on his neck. And what they noticed is that the arrows were slowly turning, and I think they've noticed that instead of hours, right, the hour arrow was you know, pointing at days. So after a while they just realized that they were on a countdown, right? Because if you know every hour on the watch is one day in real life, and they have 12 days, right? And The watch clearly reset to 00 when the black creature died. They were on a countdown, and whatever the clock was counting down to did not seem good, since it reset at death. And then even an even worse thing happened. His friend, the one that had the watch, was slowly starting to change into that creature. And that's the exact photo, right? That's the photo of... Oh, not this one. Whoops, spoilers. That's the photo of his friend, right? Just sitting on the bench. You can see he's got 1 day left, I believe, or so. Yeah, we know what happened, but the saddest thing is that the old man said that when his friend died at the middle of the road because he didn't want anyone from his house and family to get his hands on that watch. Uh, the next day the watch was gone, so someone picked it up and someone would have a really bad day, so the watch is still in circulation. So that is the spooky part. I've noticed that we've stopped telling spooky stories. Uh, right, we've just started telling life stories from life, I guess. Okay, let's do one more story because I just spoiled it. I can't just jump over it. I have to. I have to, please. There's a story of the honest man. Right, like there was a little boy. Right, he was on a meeting in the middle of the night around the campfire, just like we are right now. And his friends were kinda, his friends were kinda picking on him, so he went to his tent and texted his mother that he would, really want to go back home because his friends keep, bullying him. But the weirdest part, he also texted that to his mother that every one of them seemed to somehow whisper from behind to him that, you know, they whispered from behind to him that it's okay. They actually really like him, right? And it's just a joke. Like they were really honest. They were they were really honest to him. But then when he tried to reply to them, first of all they weren't behind him anymore. They were sitting on their place like normal. And they also denied that they said anything like that. So, he texted that to his mom and then he went back to the friends and he wanted to tell them, hey, I'm gonna be leaving now, right? Like, sorry, I have to go. But his friends were gone. His friends were gone, and the only thing that he saw was a tall, ominous creature that clearly didn't like his friends picking on him. And he clearly wanted to do something about it. Or he clearly already did something about it. Now, to some actually scary stories, right? Let's get some scary stories. This one's cool. This one's cool. This is actually another one of these old man's stories. I really like the old man stories. Uh, what did he say? Ah, yeah, that was a story of a doll. A doll that always, you know, had an amazing time playing with her owner. Right? The doll always had a great time Like she saw the light of day and smiles and happiness, but now the happiness is gone, right? Because you know what happens, the owner grows up and the owner leaves their dolls in a box, and the dolls are forgotten, and the doll has, you know, promised itself that if anyone ever picks it up again, she's gonna cherish her new master, and she will do anything that the master wants, except she has one goal. She will have to, you know, she will have to take part in. She will destroy her past owner that abandoned her, and her parents who told her that she's too old for playing with dolls, right? You know, here's a photo. Here's a photo because we can. No, actually, I think that's a drawing, right? Another one of the old man's drawings. Or maybe he picked. No, I don't think he did. Hold up, let me remember. I think he said, like, these photos are so blurry. I have no idea if it's a drawing or a photo. Looks like a drawing, but it could be a photo. Some weird filter was applied to this one. I don't think he told me. I don't think he told me. Okay. Okay then. Next one, I guess. Ooh. This one, another scary story. A scary story about an infectious lemon. Ooh, an infectious lemon. A lemon that, you know, a lemon that infects, I guess. Right? A family of, mother, father, and a few children. They were just having a good fun in the morning with the breakfast. One of them took a single lemon to their hands and, you know, started to see, wow, like I wonder how much of this sourness I can withstand. And they had a lot of fun. Everyone ate a bit, except the oldest brother. The oldest brother had to go, you know, meet up with his friends. So he went by, goodbye, right? We will meet later. And he went to the party. He had a great time. And 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 then late at night, the friend at whose house the party was, the party was held, uh, received a message from the very friend that we were just following. And the text said that, it was a great party. Thank you so much for the party. And don't worry about the tiny little cut I got. Because when playing, he got a tiny little splinter in his hand or something. Don't worry about the little cut. It never hurt anyone. And and you know, then he said, like, when I went back home, like the only thing that the little cut, the the only way it hurt me is I just when going into the house, like there was still some lemon juice on the doorknob, and it got into me, and the sourness was, a horrible pain. I know how it feels when something sour gets into. your blood. And then he said, we're coming over. I think you know where this is going, right? Like, yeah, and his family, lemon people, spitting sour lemony juice all over everyone. And if it gets into your blood, you are fucked. Okay. Okay. Well, you know what's tiring? We are. Holy shit, we are out. We are an hour in, and we are barely one third, one third in as well. I think I'm gonna skip a few, you know. Like, I'm gonna just skip the more boring ones. You know how it is. I'm really sorry, but time, am I right? I'm gonna be skipping the more important ones because okay, let's get out of character for a moment. I'm pausing the campfire. There is no campfire. Ooh, no campfire. Wait. So you know, we are. Whoa, yo, yo. What is this? Go black. Oop, okay. Um, what these are, you might have guessed already, are my Inktober works. Right, these are all the Inktobers I've done, except this one. The campfire was this one. It was made specifically for the purposes of this stream, and the others are just because I have made myself an additional challenge for this year's Inktober, that every drawing is a creature, and to every creature I have added a spooky, scary story, that a few of which I have just told you. But we are 11 in, and we are also an hour in. So if I wanted to tell you all of them, it would take 3 hours. And I do not feel like sitting here and talking for 3 hours, so I'm gonna skip the more the more boring ones and keep the ones that are the most important to the overarching story, because there's the old man plot, you know, some spooky stuff happening. Let's go back to the spookiness though. Right, fire is back up. Ooh. So, the next story is another one of the old man's story actually. Um, Another one of the old man's stories. He was actually a traveler. He loved to travel and everything. Uh, and actually, at one of his travels, right, one of the cities he came into, uh, there was a really odd rule, right? Uh, that you can do like, well, you can do anything. You can do anything that the country allows, but you mustn't touch any cats. For some reason, cats were straight off banned, right? You cannot touch a single cat in that city. And how they explained it is that there was a legend. There was a legend in that city about a god, right? But not, you know, not the Christian god or anything, just some creature that was kind of godlike, and that god could change the will of every other person, right? So, but just change their will, right? It wasn't quite mind control, but he could just make you think that you want something else. So yeah, it was basically mind control, but not quite. And naturally, no one liked that. So a few, a few of the people who lived there were decided to, you know, play a hero. Mm, and they have enchanted a cat so that any person who touches it, uh, their sanity and their mind and their consciousness gets whoop transported into the head of the cat. Oh, epic English, mate. Thanks, dude. Thanks that I'm, spooky story. You're in the middle of one. We're gonna start a new one soon, so you're gonna be kept up. But, so what they did. One of the heroic people touched the cat and swapped the consciousness with it. So now he could control the cat, right? Because he was the cat. So what he did, he came up to to the so-called god, and the god had no idea that, that's any person. So of course he pet the cat. He pet the cat, from out of confidence, I guess. And we know what happens then. He got transported and got, because of course he did. And now he's trapped there. And that's why there's the rule to not touch any cats, because it might just so happen that it's the cat that contains the god inside. And that would mean, thank you very much for following, that would mean that they would just let the god out. And, so there's just a random cat containing a god inside, which just randomly watches over the village. And some people say that, you know, he got out of that village. And that is not good news because, you know, like you don't even have to think about it. You can just guess. If he gets out, I bet you have never heard that story. So if he gets out, no one knows the legend of the cursed cat, and the monster god will get out. So that, that's no good, is it? Another another story of the old man. The old man, another one connected to the one that, to the fact that he was a traveler. Um, there are these little annoying creatures, tiny ones, and they're not like evil, because all of the creatures that we were talking about today were straight of evil, right? Trying to eat you or kill you or die to you and stuff like that. Mm, these are just these are called squeaks, I believe. Squeaks. And what they do, they just are really playful, and they love high-pitched sounds and tiny spaces. Uh, and it just so happens that you know, a little bit squeaky compass is perfect, a perfect place for them, because the arrow moves around and it squeaks in a high-pitched noise, which they love, and it's not a very big place, so they love it. But what ends up happening is that they, wait a moment, they start playing with the compass, and they tilt it, right? There's another drawing of the old man. The old man drew me this, and they just start playing with it, and the compass no longer points north or south, it just points wherever they like, which causes a lot of travelers to get lost. Because, of course, they get lost, right? They don't know where the compass is, but nowadays we do have phones, so, and a lot of people do have compasses on their phones, so. Yeah, don't use normal compasses, it'll just end badly for you. So yeah, that's that's one thing too. remember another story of the old man. And this one actually confused me at first, right? But I've got an explanation for it. Like, the old man said that one night he was just strolling along the street, looking at the stars, thinking of stuff, and then he met a few, like, well, creatures. Of course, every single one of these are creatures, but they were like children, but they were really adult. Like, they had the mindful capacity of an adult. They were able to discuss different topics, but they were still, children-sized. So he talked with them. He talked with them about different stuff, and they were actually quite helpful. So another, nice creature, another one in this horrible world. Hello! Hi, how are you? We're telling spooky stories, which may or may which may or may not be recycling of my Inktober every single drawing. Moving back on. um, he was just, they helped him in a few ways, and he helped them with a few problems which they had. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go look at it later, maybe. Okay, nice, sick. I've seen it. I'm trying to roleplay. Moving back to the roleplay. They helped each other with some stuff. Uh, but then he had a lot of time to look at them and to talk to them. Uh, so he managed to notice that they looked like they were made from stone, right? Like from moon rock. You know, the moon. The moon is a rock, and these creatures look like they're from the moon. Well, not from the moon, they're like made from the moon, more like that. But when he noticed that, uh, clouds have shown them the moon because it was a really cloudy night, and now the clouds have revealed the moon, and all the little moon people looked at the moon, and they seem to have realized something, and they hid. And the old man was actually quite sad because they were really nice people. Maybe they would come back, he thought. So he waited a bit, and he waited a bit. And 5 minutes passed, and he was just about to get up and go home, do something else. But then a single one of these moon people came up to him, and he looked really sorry, like really sorry for something. Really sad, really depressed. He just he just looked at the old man and he said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of us. The moon told us to." That's that's just another one of these sad, depressing stories. Well, Halloween. Gotta get spooky. So, if the lesson we learn, if you ever meet a moon-made creature, talk to them as long as as long as you can see. Oh, thank you very much. Did you see today's one? Ooh, tomorrow is gonna be the finale, and today might be, you know, today might be the finale, but only on stream. Yeah. So yeah, basically the very last story I'm telling is tomorrow's is drawing. So yeah, because yes. Ah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I, I'm gonna skip a lot of drawings today because I'm an hour in and 1/3 of the way there, and I already skipped a lot of them, so I'm gonna be skipping still. And yeah, the lesson learned: talk to moon people only if there are clouds. If you can see the moon, run. That's a great story, great thing to think about. The old man was a really interesting person. I really liked the old man. But one day the old man mm, came up to me and it seemed like he was, you know, quite surprised. Like if it has just happened to him. Mm, yeah, and he said that if just now he has met a a really weird person, like not weird person, a perfect person, which of course was weird. And he said something about Plato, the philosopher. I don't know. I have no idea about anything in philosophy. And the old man basically said that our minds are not capable of, perceiving perfect things. So when we see anything that is straight off perfect, we just cannot comprehend it. And then he also blew my mind, because then he came up to me and showed me a photo, which is actually another scary story. How often do you see old people who know how phones work, right? That's actually another spooky story. But he showed me a photo, and believe me or not, I'm gonna show you this photo in a moment. This is not a GIF. Remember, roleplay, roleplay. I'm not trying to cheat you. I'm not trying to cheat you. This is roleplay. This is not a GIF, or this is not a film. This is straight off a photo. Uh, but what the photo represents is so perfect that when you see it, you cannot comprehend what's happening. Look, this like it's not even an illusion. It's just it's fuzzy and blurry and weird because you just cannot understand it at all. Anything. It's just your your brain too small. So yeah, it's really really weird and interesting. But what also the other thing that the old man said is that he doesn't remember anything he did with that person. So that's even scarier because you never know what you do, right? Like he remembered that he did do something. It's not just he wasn't drunk, right? He did not get drunk, but you know, the memories were just fuzzy, just like that picture. The memories were just fuzzy and difficult to understand. And then this is a sad one. Then the next day, because as you do, the old man every single day he came up and said these stories, one story at a time, right? One day, one story, next day, other story. And the very next day after the perfect human, he was really sad. He was really like horribly, horribly desperate and depressed, not depressed, just almost crying. He didn't tell us a story that day. He was just asking a question. We have problems. What problems? What problems are you having? I'm gonna continue the story in a moment. What's happening? Oh, another opponent. Well, okay. We are not. This is not about opponents. This is about scary stories. Come on. And please, my costume was literally. I, I gotta Google it. Uh, it was a sheet with holes in it. The most cliche ghost costume you can ever make. I'm not even. I'm not even an opponent. I'm below. I'm below that. Moving on to the roleplay thingy. No. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you very much, but moving on to the scary stories. Ah, thank you very much. I think I'm gonna give you candy because because the only other one is Mr. Dream over there. Now my friends wants me to play Sea of Thieves with him. You have to wait. I'm gonna finish the scary stories and then I'm gonna play Sea of Thieves with you. Like straight after. Mr. Dream. Okay, moving on. Moving on to the role play. The old man, he was almost crying. He didn't tell us any story that day. He only asked a question. He asked a question like, if you would ever get a carton box, and inside of the box there would be a creature, or even worse, the box was the creature, but you didn't know the box was a creature, so you wanted to open it, see what's inside, but accidentally kill the box. Like, are you the monster in this story? He was really depressed, and I think we all know what happened. Like, a few days after that, he actually, you know, he actually repeated that story. Well, repeated it as a story, actually, and gave us the picture. So yeah, I think everyone guessed what happened, but it's still really sad. Like, I think I'd cry. I think I like the old man clearly likes all of these creatures, even though it seems as a few of them have killed him, which is also weird. How can you die a few times? And we will get to that. But the old man was really sad because I believe that's the first one he has killed, actually. That was really sad, but actually this one is not from the old man. This is actually my own, right? From my life. I've just you know how it is. I was just walking around. Uh, okay. Just walking around, strolling along. I went into some building. I think I had to, you know, do something in there. Or it was a friend's building. I don't know. Something happened. Either way, uh, I ended up in a basement, but not trapped. Just needed to get something from there. Uh, and then I saw like a lot of the pipes were like bloody and horrible and uh like I later referenced that to the old man, and he said that he actually had the exact same situation earlier in his life, and that I was really lucky because when he met one of the pipes, because that's actually how the monster is called, pipes, and if there are multiple, then there are multiple pipeses. Pipes is actually like a singular amount of the monster. And the old man said that his was damaged, right? His pipes was damaged with, I don't know, with something, and he was dripping with today's is breakfast. So, he even took a photo. There we go. There's the photo. Like, if the pipes would not be damaged, he would be, another breakfast. So, great. But, then, the day I referenced it to him, he told us a story about, well, I don't remember their name, but, tiny creatures. were the only actual pleasant creatures in this world, right? The only actual things who want to make others happy. Uh, the small people, their purpose in life is to get rid of all of the evil to the bone creatures that I have just told you about, and a lot of the future ones as well. The the purpose of this creature is just to, get rid of them, but not like murder them brutally. They're friendly. Like, if you're lost in a forest, they will help you. If you ever get hungry, they will feed you. Um, but whatever eats them will not have a fun time because their blood actually contains a highly toxic for all carbon-based life, material. So if you would eat it, you would just die. So that's exactly what a lot of these creatures did. These were the only straight off friendly and nice creatures. But since they cared about others more than about themselves, they're the only creatures from all of the creatures that I'm about to tell you are on the verge of extinction. Look how adorable it is. Like, this is one of the last of its species. Like, it did so much good. That's why all of these horrible monsters are rare. Because they got rid of them one by one, slowly but surely. And, you know, now they're almost gone, apparently. Haven't met any of them. And, actually, this is also a story from the old man. But this one, this day, that was actually the very next day also. He seemed furious, right? And older. He was somehow, it looked like he has aged a few years in the matter of one day. And he was fuming. And it was another one of these stories where he has died. So, so I think that it was recent. I'm gonna get to that one. What he, what he told us about is that he was just talking with his friend, and he told him a little secret. He told him that, no, secret. He told him a little secret, and it was really difficult for his friend to process. So they went outside to get some fresh air and breathe. Mm, but but then they both made a huge mistake. None of them looked behind them when they went on the roof. So, well, gotta Google some railings. They went up to the railings, looked down. It was a long way down. And before the old man could even say anything, he felt cold, hard, and sharp hands heavily placed on his shoulders, and then he get pushed out of the roof, and he fell, and he fell, and it was a long way down. So he got a lot of time to think, and he thought he got betrayed by his friend. Right? Maybe his friend tried to check if what he just said was true. But no. At the top of the roof, there was another creature. And it was one of the creatures that the old man actually met before. But he always met it as in, a side watcher. He always saw his friends get pushed, and it wasn't ever like this high. It was usually from a really short distance, like maybe they'd break some bones. But this is the first time he'd met this creature, and he was furious. This is the first time, well, first time he met this creature, first time he got pushed. And also it was the first time when it was so low. He was fuming, he was angry, and he clearly hated it. He said that these are the worst little fuckers that exist in this horrible world. He was filled with disgust and anger. He would do everything. He would do everything to get rid of these little fuckers. He was furious. I really liked the old man. But today, he came up to us and he told us another story. He, he confessed to what we thought was real already, that he died a lot of times already, right? He's basically immortal. But every time he dies, he gets a bit older. We could have guessed that already, but there we go. And he got his immortality from one of the monsters he has met, right? Like one of the monsters just told him a secret how to stay immortal. And so he got fascinated with all of these monsters, and he went out to the world to look for these monsters, to look every single monster that can exist, find one, find every single one, and try to remember them. And he definitely didn't meet them all, but he met a lot of them. I just told you stories about some of them, and he loved them, even if he died because of them. He loved every single monster, it was his passion. He just loved all of these little monsters and stories and everything. But today he came to us and he said that he is so old, and every time he dies, it's a challenge to get back to life. You don't just randomly get alive. It's a challenge to even live after getting back to life. And he is so old, he said. He just came up to us that day, and when he was leaving, he said that he doesn't think that he can make it the next time he dies, and that he thinks that even if he could, he'd just rather stay dead. And he said goodbye, that we're never gonna see each other again, and then he smiled, turned around and said, "Happy Halloween."